3 DLCs and a summer sale have finally provided the motivation needed to overcome paying a monthly fee for Final Fantasy XIV. Was it worth it? Find out right here on The Thirsty Mage.
Hello and welcome to This Week at The Thirsty Mage. I'm your host Casey Gibson, and here joining me, roaming the countryside of Eorza, it's the new MMO convert, Mr. David Lloyd.
I was able to peel myself off the PS4 for a few minutes just to talk to you today, Casey.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a feeling this might go down as the shortest episode as David goes, FF14 mini review, it's amazing, I gotta go see it.
That's right. I've got it paused. I'm trying to not die here, looking out for my little guy and hoping he survives the delay while I do some work here.
Yeah, any time not spent, beefing up your character, whether it's with new levels or loot, is time not spent well, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, finally, man, you've been talking about Final Fantasy XIV. You've been flirting with it. You've been flirting with Final Fantasy XIV for a minute now. So it was a sale, right? We finally got a sale. You finally dove in. Why don't you tell us, because I've never played Final Fantasy XIV, I'm a World of Warcraft guy, so why don't you tell us a little bit about this, and then maybe a little bit of your experience getting into an MMO after, you've never played one before, right? This is the first time?
Yeah, so I've always been a big Final Fantasy fan, played all the mainline games, and really enjoy the series as a whole, but I haven't been able to get into the MMO, the Final Fantasy XI or Final Fantasy XIV, because I've never really been into the MMOs. I've always been worried about not having enough time to dedicate towards these types of games to be able to kind of keep up with everyone. I know a lot of people that play them, it's kind of like their one and only game. They just kind of live it. So it's always scared me off. The monthly fee has always scared me off as well. But it's been too long that Final Fantasy XIV, I keep hearing about how great it is. That each DLC is better than the last, and yeah, like you said, there's a summer sale, might still be going on if you check it out, but it was for PS4 and the Steam version, and it was just too tempting to not at least give it a try. So I was able to get it at half price, the complete edition, so that comes with the base game and the 3 DLCs. And it also provides the first month free. So yeah, my experience so far has been pretty good. I created my character. I ended up in the world of Gridania, which is kind of like the forest biome type area of Final Fantasy XIV. I'm started off with an archer because my long-term goal is to be to follow in Balthier's footsteps as a machinist. That's the job class that's spoken the most to me so far, other than it was a real toss-up between that and being a gunslinger. So
it's always tempting, but I think you're going down the right path. It makes sense for you. It feels right. Yeah,
to use the gunblade, you have to be a tank, and that's not really my style. I'm more the Balthier. Hang back and shoot from afar. He's
DPS, a little more flashy. You're a little more flashy.
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of my style. So, yeah, I've played probably 6-7 hours, something like that. A few hours anyway. Up to level 20 now. So I've opened up. I believe I have access to new jobs, new classes now. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. I'm happy to learn there's a pretty deep story that's going on that gets even better as you get through each DLC. Right now, it's kind of based on, like I said, the Eorza is where the game takes place, and I guess the Cole's notes of the story is that there's an empire kind of northeast, I believe, of Eorza that. It keeps on trying to invade and take over the area, and there's four regions of that banded together, or three of the 4 regions banded together to fight off this force that's kind of came in, and this empire called upon this moon to come towards the planet, and it actually had Bahamut inside of it. So The way that battle ends is that there's the four warriors of light end up trapping Bahamut back into the moon, and that's kind of where it picks up from the beginning of the game. Is for some reason nobody can remember who the warriors of light were. They don't exactly remember the fight itself. It doesn't seem, though they know what happened.
It's all a dream.
The only thing they know. Yeah, that's right. Other than the landscape is like toast for the most part. A lot of the places are, and still a lot of people died. So, yeah. So you're kind of coming in a few years after this event as an adventurer, just like the Warriors of Light, and around level 15. So I mean, the quests themselves, like there is some story beats that you get as you go along. A lot of the quests have felt pretty. Fetch quests.
Yeah, I think
for
that's
the beginning,
a bit
anyway.
of a staple. Yeah.
Yeah. But now that I'm at level, when I hit level 15, sorry, I ended up going. They opened it up where they give you an airship pass. So I've been to a few of the different regions now, and in one of them, when I hit level 17, the main story quest put me in a dungeon, and that was the first dungeon I had actually tried. So it's pretty neat. You kind of wait at the dungeon's entrance until you get the right amount of people. I believe there was 4 of us. There was like a tank, a healer, and the 2 DPS. Myself being one. And yeah, we just cleared out the dungeon. It wasn't exactly difficult, I would say.
Yeah.
We kind of just went in and cleaned house. Learned a few things though, like like learning how to. I guess you have to kind of put your claim to the loot when you get in there. So when the dungeon's cleared, you kind of end up with something when you finish it up. But it was a pretty fun. I think it was about 15-20 minutes, but it was still pretty fun playing with people. I think I'll have to like get my headset set up or something, because I don't think I actually talked to anybody. We just it was an unspoken. Let's just clean up everything that's in here and
it was not
take what's ours.
It was not a trip for pleasure. It was a trip of business, and you were all there to take care of it. Yeah, generally speaking, yep. Obviously, like I said, my background with World of Warcraft is, the early dungeons are fairly simple. Like you said, anyone can sort of go in there, and at least in WoW, they have it where, like, you could be a DPS and still tank. You know what I mean? Because eventually, when you get into like the end game stuff, where you're either in raids or you're doing high-end dungeons, you'll need a specialized tank and someone who's like, yes, I'm a healer, I'm a tank, you know what I mean? But lower levels, they just want everyone to sort of be able to go in there, do the quests associated with that, get some new pieces of armor. They're generally making pretty easy, so I figure probably similar with Final Fantasy, where like the first, probably half of the dungeons are probably going to be more or less pretty simple, maybe a few little twists in there, but then when you start getting, to the higher levels, you'll start to probably see like, okay, we need a little bit more coordination as a group, opposed to just sort of like 4 people going in there and just doing it,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I mean, my mini review of it so far, I guess, would be is that I'm not regretting the purchase. I'm very happy with it so far. It's starting to open up with the different, like the dungeon crawling and seeing some of the different story scenes that I've seen now, and it's very impressive, beautiful game. It's actually a lot more detailed than I thought it was going to be. The world is way bigger, so I'm happy about that.
That's like another MMO staple, right? Because like everything is ginormous because you have so many people in one area, right? It's like the doorways are always massive, like all these big sprawling areas, sort of interesting. But yeah, I mean, have you gotten like, I guess, you've only done a dungeon or two, you're gonna eventually get to that part where like, oh, you get like a real great upgrade at your weapon. You said you're an archer, right? So you'll get like probably like a bow that's just way better than anything you've had, and then like that'll be like I can tangibly see I'm doing way more damage. These enemies are dying way faster, and then you sort of start to be like, oh man, that was awesome. Like it feels awesome to be like super powered, and like then it all starts to feed into itself. Like, oh, got to do the dungeons here, to get the new items so I can do the better dungeons, and it sort of, you get into that sort of gear loop.
Yeah, and it's the same with the leveling up. I'm getting new abilities that I hadn't used before, and I got a few pretty neat ones where it's like I kind of rain arrows down on like a group of people, and the bloodletting arrow, and so it's a lot of fun.
Heck yeah, man! I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, so if there's anyone who's playing Final Fantasy XIV wants to join us, hit us up on Twitter at the Thirsty Mage, and we'll join up, start a guild. I don't know. We'll wreak some havoc.
It'll be the Thirsty Mage Guild. It'll be perfect.
That's right. Yeah, the guild that drinks the most.
Yeah, so I mean,
like you said, you've been playing some World of Warcraft yourself, right, Case?
Yeah, so I've actually, I think a while ago we, at least on the podcast, we were talking about, Classic, and I've actually sort of been playing some more retail now, which is sort of funny because like they're totally two different games. Classic WoW, you're putting like a lot of time commitment, and like you really work towards things, and you'll have a set goal, and you'll sort of, it's going to take a while. Where retail is a little bit faster paced, especially sort of in a weird spot because Battle for Azeroth, BFA, is the current expansion, and that's actually coming to an end, right? They've already released the last patch with the last raid, like N'Zoth was the final boss. It was, I believe, an old god, and it's sort of cool how, each patch, right, like you get the new raid, but then other things associated with it that are sort of outside of raid. So it's pretty much the culmination of this expansion has come and gone, and it's sort of like in the waiting for Shadowlands, which is the next expansion to come out. The alpha, and more recently, I think of just last week, or it might have been 2 weeks ago at this point, the beta just started going out, so people are getting into beta. So they're really ramping up for the launch of Shadowlands. So, like I said, sort of a weird spot, because there's no new content coming for this expansion. They've boosted everything up to, you get 100 XP on everything, 100 XP bonus. So, if you get 1,000 experience for that quest, now you're getting 2,000. So obviously leveling up is like supercharged, because again, like, so right now the cap is 120, and with Shadowlands they're doing a squish, so it's going to be the main, the max level is going to actually be 60 again. So there's some story stuff going on, and eventually you're going to be level 50, and then you'll get, work from level 50 to 60 in the new expansion. And it's sort of cool because they're reworking how you level, because there's been, I think Shadowlands will be the 8th expansion for Warcraft. So obviously that's a lot of different storylines going on, right? And like, original, like through Cataclysm, the expansion, you're up through level 80, I believe. And then, but now it's level 120 max, right? So like you're going through these zones, you're not finishing out quest lines because you eventually get too much experience where you need to move on to the next area. So in the new expansion, they're actually going to be crushing it down, and you'll essentially pick one expansion you want to play. So it'd be like, hey, I want to play the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. So you'll do like level 1 to 10 will be like a little starter area, and then from level 2 to 50 will just be on that one continent following that storyline. So you'll actually get to see the full storyline through, which I think will be great for people coming in as new players, because it's super confusing otherwise, right? Like there's just like, if you didn't, like if you were brand new to WoW, it would like, everything's so segmented, like, oh, I'm going here and I'm going here, the stories don't make sense, like what am I doing, so it'll be way more like for sort of player friendly to get into it, much more streamlined, which would be nice. And then if you ever want to replay, it'll make it more fun for that. But yeah, so right now it's sort of strange. Just been playing, doing some they're called mythic dungeons. So essentially, you've got all the dungeons you could play. Then there's heroic modes of them, which is just a little more difficult. And now they've introduced mythic, which is even more difficult than heroic. And eventually, like, yeah, I know it's confusing, right? There's like so many things going on. And even like, so I didn't play BFA. I didn't play pretty much a couple expansions before this. It's really the first time I've been playing like retail WoW again. And my head was spinning with how much stuff was going on, because it's like, again, I mentioned we're at the end of the expansion, so you have all these different sort of like, oh, you need to get this item by doing this crazy quest line, and then you got to upgrade it, and then you upgrade it by doing these things, but you do this by so it was just like, whoa, like I don't know what's going on. Luckily I had a friend who has been playing, so he was able to sort of like, hey, like walk you through it. But if I didn't have that, it would have just been super daunting, you know what I mean? So I think their goal is to sort of clean that up a little bit with the next expansion, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good, and WoW sort of lately had this sort of good expansion followed by a bad expansion. Then they bounce back with a good expansion, and then like, so BFA has been pretty much regarded as a bad expansion, like one of the worst actually. So the hope is that Shadowlands bounces back, and from impressions with the alpha and beta, testing, it seems like it's in the right direction to sort of bounce back and be a good one. So it is releasing in 2020. I'm looking forward to giving it a go. But yeah, MMOs, man, they know how to get their talons in you.
Well, it seems like a great time to play MMO right now. With Nintendo really not having anything scheduled to come out again for the rest of this year, and a lot of the Sony and Microsoft stuff that I'm looking forward to playing, a lot of it's more backloaded in like end of October, November sort of thing, and then you got like the console launches, obviously probably still 2020 for those two companies, so everything's kind of like holiday for them. So anyone like me who's kind of been sitting on the fences of MMOs for a while, now's the time to play it. We've got plenty of time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and there are certainly good ways to I was gonna say kill that time, but sink your time into something, and definitely, yeah. Like you said, there is that monthly fee, which is can be, but like it's sort of funny, like you were saying before. People tend to end up only playing that one game, right? Almost. So yeah, it's $15 a month, but you're not really buying any other games. So it actually sort of isn't always as bad as it seems. But yeah,
cheaper in the long run, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Until you have like 4 different accounts, and all of a sudden you're like, oh.
That's right.
Well, that's gonna be it.
Why did I get that extra character?
Oh yeah. Well, that's going to be it for this week on The Thirsty Mage. We hope you enjoyed the show, and please consider liking and subscribing down below. You can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @TheThirstyMage. If you're an RPG fan, which of course you are, you're here checking out this video, that means you should definitely be checking out the podcast, The Thirsty Mage. You can get it on all podcast services, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. Easy to find. Just type in The Thirsty Mage, give it a download. We what did we do? We just did an episode on the DS, almost said 3DS, the DS, and all, sort of gave a brief history of the console itself, and then we got into some of the RPGs, some of the very, very many RPGs on that console. So you'll definitely want to give that a listen. And again, we'll be back next week with another episode, and we'll see you then.